Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ, a partnership with Washington County Public Schools. We're here the third Thursday of the month. I'm Will Kaufman from the Public Information Office, joined today by Jeff Proulx, one of our regulars from the School Food Service and Nutrition Office as supervisor of said office. And we're joined today by one of our first-timers. It's Sandy Hammond, also from Food and Nutrition Services, one of Jeff's assistants, Supervisor Sandy Hammond, as we talk with Jeff on a regular basis about all of the things that go on in food service. It goes just a bit beyond school lunch menus and food choices. There's a lot going on in food service.
Always something big. I'm thrilled to work with a great team of just outside-the-box thinkers, and it's more like reining in horses, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, Sandy, welcome. Good to have you. First time on the show. There is a lot to talk about. Let me do a little bit of timely activity, which is battling the weather during the winter months. You guys have a whole series of steps that really are affected by even questions about weather and how your day goes, depending on how the weather and the school schedules go. I guess it's been a little jumpy here in recent weeks.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. So, just even thinking about the weather this week, going into the long weekend, emails going out to staff on Friday. Hey, we don't know yet what's going on, but, batten down the hatches, make sure you're securing perishables so that we don't lose product if we have an extended leave. Planning ahead, Tuesday and Wednesday are our primary delivery days from our broadline distributors. So, like any other business, their trucks roll. They don't, the weather doesn't really slow them down. So we have to make provisions either to cancel orders in advance or have staff on site to make those deliveries. And, on a situation like you have with Wednesday, when we've got a rocky, weather forecast and we're shifting from delays to cancels, oftentimes we already have staff in schools working on meal programs when those cancellations come. So it's always a treat.
And when you're in that kind of flux, there's really no stock way to okay, well, when this happens, we're going to do this, because it can vary from day to day, from weather situation to weather situation.
It does. So we try to go with a stay slow and steady, cautious approach. Hold off as long as you can, but once we let go, it's full on go. So, some of our schools, even on a delay day, actually serve lunch earlier, which is, first you have to take some minute to get your head wrapped around that. But in most school situations, every class is shortened a few minutes so that the students still receive every piece of the schedule, with the exception of the middle of the day class, which generally is the lunch period. So often cases that moves the lunch period up, anywhere from 20 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on each individual school. So staff have to be on time. Even when there's a 2-hour delay, food service staff have to be on time. And sometimes we cook earlier, which means, we might say that we have till 7:30 sometimes to make a decision because the buses don't have to roll yet, but food service staff is already rocking and rolling at that point.
Worst case scenario, you have things cranking and then we shut down.
So at that point, it's, all right, can we stop cooking process if we have to, or finish a cooking process, go through a cooling process like we would with a leftover at the end of a normal day so that the product can be held and stored safely for use on another day. And we might just lock that menu, let's say, for the next day when we're back because the food's already in production.
Is that possible under all circumstances, or are there certain... there have to be some limitations on just food, certain kinds of food items where, we're not going to be able to put this back out on Friday or next Wednesday or whatever.
Yeah, nobody really likes leftovers. We don't like them on our refrigerator a lot of days. But if we cook something appropriately and we cool it appropriately, it has a usable life beyond that first day. So in a situation when we know we're going to, let's say, stop a cooking process or even see something all the way through a cooking process, as long as we get it cold fast, that's the key. Limit bacteria, limit degrading of quality due to heat. Then that product is perfectly fine, perfectly safe, perfectly acceptable and palatable to go out on another day's menu.
What happens with our? We have community partners. We're cooking for not just students. What happens with those agencies?
General protocol with and our two contracts I think you're referring to. We service the Commission on Aging for their congregate feeding sites as well as for the home delivered meals program. We also provide services to the Easter Seals Adult Day Center in Hagerstown. The protocol for them is that if school is on a delay or cancellation, there's no meal services. Okay. Specifically, Easter Seals may still be open, but they figured out, and that's a day maybe when they order pizza for their clients. For the Commission on Aging, based on their clientele and their volunteer demographic, they're not out on those days anyway, or the drivers that are doing home delivered meals don't want to be out when the weather's bad. So it's just amenable for them actually it's better for them to just shut her down. Okay.
On regular days, most of them qualify as that, non-weather, non-school schedule changes. How are things we are well into the school year now. How's business?
Business is good. Meals, we judge ourselves always on meals per day, and how many do we churn out? And I want to sound it too business like, but it is sort of what it is. Are we meeting projections? Are we meeting the same numbers we did last year? And we are a business inside the school system, so we are flat, which is a winner because of course we had a slightly declined enrollment this year that we reported to the board back in November. So if we're flat on declining enrollment, that means we've actually had a little bit of growth. So I think that's something we're pleased with. But lunches are staying steady, breakfasts are staying steady, and we're trying to grow shoulder periods. We're trying to grow suppers, where we do meals and after-school enrichment programs or with athletic programs, and we're trying to really grow breakfast in places that we don't have universal free in the classroom.
Right. Breakfast has been a strong suit. I mean, we've had at it a number of years ago, and that seems to be good to go on the day-to-day.
It is, and we've been lucky to really, I say, take more than our fair share in Washington County of state money that's available for the universal free in-classroom breakfast program, what we call the Maryland Meals for Achievement program. We have every site that is eligible for that program is enrolled in that program, which not every county can say. And considerably, our percentage when we're at 100%, saturation, there are many counties that are maybe in the 50 percentile. So we're happy to do that, and it's a great benefit to our students.
How do you decide on a price increase, which has been an inconsistent proposition, which is great? We haven't had to go to that well. What goes into that whole debate? So
we'll start a budget process for food and nutrition services here probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks for a presentation to the board in May. Because we're a business operating our own funds, we have to make our own money. So to pay all of our own bills, which includes paying for staff, paying for equipment, paying for sanitation practices, you name it. So part of a price increase is about balancing the budget. There is also a regulation in the federal school meals programs law that indicates that we have to meet a minimum pricing based on federal reimbursement rates that we get for meals that we serve to free students. Currently, Washington County Public Schools sells meals to paid students at a rate below the federal rate, which does then kick in a trigger for us to have to increase meal prices, whether we would want to or not. So it is sort of a catch-22. We are on a steady decline. I think we've gone up 10 cents a year for the last probably 4 years running now. And sometimes that is a detriment to our paid meal sales. That paid meal sales decline when you have price increases. We see that in our own lives. When prices go up, we say, well, do I really need that? Can I do it cheaper myself? That happens in every home across the country.
I think a testament to you and the department is that there's never any... your public presentation is normally here. You come out and do the talk show. Other than that, there's no buzz about the school food services department and the budget and all of that. There's never any hoopla. There's never any drama. There's never any haranguing, and that's a good thing.
We like to fly under the radar, do our thing, keep our noses clean, and keep our troubles internal.
This is Lunchtime Live on WJEJ. We're here the third Thursday of the month at this time, a live program for our half hour. Today's guest, Jeff Proulx, the Supervisor of Food and Nutrition Services for Washington County Public Schools, and joining us today for the first time, and it's good to have her, Sandy Hammond, and we're actually going to give her an opportunity to participate.
It's about time.
I think so too. Sandy, what's on your day-to-day? Tell us about what you do in the department.
On day-to-day, I oversee 2 regions of our food service program. The Clear Spring region and Williamsport region consists of 12 schools, 47 employees. So it's working with those teams. And in addition to that, I take on the special programs. Jeff mentioned the after-school suppers programs plus the in-classroom breakfast programs. And one thing that we're looking at is to build upon our breakfast program is the grab and go. So that's my latest project. And what we're wanting to do is increase breakfast participation in a non-traditional way. And looking at the grab-and-go kiosk, we've targeted 4 schools in the county, 2 that have started and 2 that we will be starting in March. And it gives students another opportunity to get breakfast outside of the cafeteria setting. So we've targeted gymnasiums, auditoriums, students taking the grab-and-go breakfast to their classrooms, and just trying to reach those folks that don't get to school early enough to have that traditional breakfast in the cafeteria, who can literally grab it on the go when they get there and get to the classroom on time.
So that'll be one of your employees at another location in the school then?
It will, yes.
Okay, and that will vary from school to school? I mean, it'll depend on just the physical layout of the school? Or
It will.
Okay.
Boonesboro Middle, we have staff located at a second school entrance in the morning close to their auditorium. At our Clear Spring Middle School, we just started that one last week, and we were targeting students that there is one grade that reports to the gymnasium in the morning who don't have the easiest access to the cafeteria. So we started that kiosk at the gymnasium location, monitored that for a week, and we found that we want to move that kiosk now closer to the front entrance.
What else are you looking for in the early stages of the program? I mean, what are either concerns or things you know are going to work well, you just need to confirm those? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll interject. I think, for us, it's about, building sales. That's my business hat. And so we want to see more kids eat breakfast. And it's not just about the dollars and cents of it, but, we know from national studies that kids who eat breakfast are going to perform better in the classroom. They're going to be more attentive, less disruptive, and so forth. So it really is about making sure we're getting the right service to kids, making sure that students who have a need, let's say from an economic perspective, have that opportunity to get a free breakfast at school, whether if their bus gets to school right at the last minute, they can grab this product, take it right to the classroom. And so that's sort of internal on our side. Managing a new program like this, the non-traditional grab and go, we're targeting what might be schools that are deemed affluent in the county. So, we're in Boonesboro, we're in Clear Spring, we're looking to go to Smithsburg with these. These are schools that are not eligible for the universal free program in the classroom. It's still a paid program, but it allows us an opportunity to really give a different look to those kids. And so these teachers are unaccustomed, let's say, to food in the classroom, and that sometimes is a struggle. We've heard from some of our colleagues across the state who have implemented these programs already that sometimes the first month, getting over the hump, custodians got more trash, whether it's the hallway, the classroom, the trash cans in the classroom filling up faster than they normally would. There might be a spill in the classroom, and these teachers maybe aren't as accustomed to it. And so there's going to be some growing pains, and those are the things we're looking for to make sure that we get over the hurdle and get a successful start. And I think if we can get beyond 3-4 weeks, which we've done now in Boonesboro because we started there back in October, I think we're off and running.
I assume the menu is limited.
We offer the same menu that you get in the cafeteria.
Is that
Same menu items.
So in these locations, there's 4 to 6 items that are available on a given day, hot and cold.
Right. And breakfast participation in general across the system, better, strong, same?
About the same, although where we are enrolling these new programs. I mean, I looked at some numbers this morning. Let's say specifically on Boonesboro. In September we were averaging 50 breakfasts a day. Implement the new program in October, and right now the year-to-date average is upwards of almost 90 students per day. So, a 76% increase in students that are buying breakfast every day. That's a winner.
I've never heard of after school that your department and your counterparts in school systems everywhere. I've never heard about an after school component to it.
So we actually co-sponsor a national program called the Child and Adult Care Feeding Program, which allows us to offer after-school meals. Basically, think of your school lunch in an after-school setting. We do predominantly cold items, although we have some outside contracts that are utilizing some hot programs. There has to be an enrichment component available, and in locations where it's available to athletic teams, it also has to be available to the entire population. So, for instance, the running agreement, let's say at South High, is that this program is available to all students after school that are getting homework help from a teacher. There's a club meeting after school, or it's the football team. And all the class advisor or teacher has to do is make a request to the cafeteria for X number of meals. We prepare them, have them in an assigned location. The teacher checks off, grabs the meals, checks off, I distributed 3 meals, whatever she does or he does. And that opens up now where we can do athletics, we can do the band program, we can do instruction, and then we do some community sites. So we also do boys and girls clubs. So and we ship those out of our schools into other locations.
It seems like, and maybe I've missed this along the way, and maybe it's been in place, but it seems like the relationships between your staff, not only centrally located but out in the schools, has much more of a direct relationship with school staff. Is that the case more now than ever before, or have I just missed that along the way? Has that always been the case?
I definitely think so. There is that partnership between food service staff, teaching staff, and the administrators in the building to make these programs be successful and to include as many of the teams and organizations in them as we can.
And I think, Will, when you think back, I'm a high school graduate of the 80s. I mean, we didn't have in-classroom breakfast, and we didn't have after-school suppers and things. I can recall being in high school growing up in Massachusetts, and while I was in high school, they started a breakfast program. So, I mean, it was in the cafeteria, and that was the only approach to meals was it's in the cafeteria. You go and you get it, and if you don't get it, that's fine. And so the cafeteria was somewhat segregated, let's say, from the rest of the educational process. And now we have to work more as a team because we are infusing ourselves into instruction in that way.
How much marketing do you guys do? I mean,
Nowhere near enough.
Yeah, it's not as if you don't have anything else to do either. But I mean, and your point from a business standpoint is well taken, and yet from a nutritional standpoint, we certainly. It would seem to me we want more kids to be eating school lunches because they're balanced, they're affordable, all of those kinds of things. How do you get more kids to come into the cafeteria and have lunch?
So we definitely need to do more work, let's say, with PTAs and maybe some more outward social media presence that we need to manage. And I think for us it's about getting our arms wrapped around it and who's going to take the lead on the team and who's got, let's say, the space on their plate, no pun intended, to take that on. But I think, Sandy's got with her here a few items. We've got a marketing event coming up to make parents aware of some of the opportunities that are available within our department and to actually see some of the quality of the product.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, so this is the first time we're getting this out to the public. So what we're looking at hosting is our first annual community food show. It's coming up March 21st at South High. And what we're wanting to do is to get families, parents, students involved to come out and visit our vendor booths, sample the products that we're using in our schools, sample some new products that could potentially be in our schools next year. But we want folks to help us decide what are those products going to be in our schools. Give us that feedback, what they liked and what they didn't like. But it's also an opportunity for folks to come out and learn about the different social media aspects that we use in our department, the My School Bucks, the NutriSlice apps, the online meal accounts, things like that they might have questions about, and talk to us about the special programs that we offer in the school, the after-school program meals, the in-classroom breakfast. Just be there as a resource for them, for folks that are looking for maybe a new career opportunity. We're going to have a career opportunity booth set up. But anything that's food and nutrition related, we're going to make it an evening event. We'll run 2 sessions, 1 hour long each, and we just encourage folks, as we get word out, to call in and sign up and attend one of the sessions.
This is for anybody.
It is. It's entirely open to the community. understanding we have 22,000 students, and how many can we really house? I mean, we are capping it. I think, Sandy, like 600 or 700 over 2 sessions, so sort of like 2 seatings, if you will, at a restaurant. So a 5 to 6 and a 6 to 7 time period. We've encouraged our vendors to really focus on nutritional integrity of the products that we're selling. We sampled some new product in the office yesterday that we looked at. Strictly clean labels, great palate feel, those types of things. That's what we really want to focus on, because it's really about showing our parents that school meals really are good, they're nutritionally sound, and as you mentioned earlier, they're low cost. Really, for $2.50 for a lunch for a secondary student this year, you clearly can't buy that on the commercial market.
Do you have any sense in this political year that at the presidential level, with all of the push from the First Lady in these 2 terms, that no matter who gets in, will the same intensity, has that affected school lunches, school food programs with that kind of emphasis, that kind of headline grabbing, health and nutrition and all of that? And Mrs. Obama has been very aggressive about that and very positive.
Absolutely. I attend a legislative meeting annually in Washington. Child nutrition programs are reauthorized. They're mandated programs from the federal government, but Congress has the ability to reauthorize them every 5 years, and we're currently going through that reauthorization process. So at current, there is a Senate bill which has cleared the Senate Ag Committee. It needs to yet clear the full Senate House, of course. This is your civics lesson. There has to be a companion House bill, which has to clear, of course, subcommittee on the House side before going through getting an approval in the full House. There may also have to be a conference session if the 2 bills are not alike. I mean, this is legislation at its roots. And then it has to be signed off on by the president. What I do know is that the Senate bill has reached agreement between United States Department of Agriculture, which is the oversight agency, the Senate committee, school nutrition professionals, our professional association has been at the table in discussions on that bill, and there are some items that consider would be steps back. Some releases on requirements of whole grain, some holding firm on our current level of sodium content in school meals. There is some concern that potentially the targets of the last bill may not be good for kids, that more sodium may actually be a little bit better than less. But the targets right now are a cardiac, diet. But the limits are really low, that we're targeting 7 years out from now. So there's some holdback on that, and there's a little bit of give and take. But one of the larger issues still remains funding. That the meal programs, the way they were authorized, probably had a $3 billion price tag on them per year across the country, and the government gave us, maybe $750,000 to fund those meals. So there is a funding shortfall, which is falling on the backs of our community citizens, based on requirements from the feds.
In simple terms, is it more expensive to deliver a more nutritious meal to
Absolutely.
a child? Okay.
Absolutely. Whole grains, low fat, clean label. Like we talked about a product we sampled yesterday with a purely clean label. It was a beef patty, a hamburger, right? So perfectly clean, 100% beef, no additives, no preservatives, no soy additives, no bean, no clean label. It's more expensive than the one with the soy additives and the preservatives and the coloring and the flavoring and so forth. So, it's better for our kids, but it does come at a cost.
Right. How do you feel about, here's the one loaded question. So how do you feel about scaling that back? Not necessarily, scaling it back, and then how do you feel about that whole picture? Do we really, because there'll be a little bit of a celebration if we're putting more tater tots in school lunches.
Sure. So I think we've got to be careful and we've got to be cautious. And I'm not a nutritionist by trade. That's not clearly my background, although I rely on really smart nutrition folks. But where we need to, I think, be smart is so a reduction in the amount of whole grains from every item has to be whole grain to 80% of the items have to be whole grain is smart. When you look at the dietary guidelines for Americans, they indicate, and this is the guidelines, this is what everyone across the country should be eating. they say that 50% of the grains should be whole grains. I've always argued, why are school meals 100% whole grain? I think it's because the feds can require it of us because they are probably going on good premise that most of us don't eat whole grain at home. We eat white bread, we eat white pasta, white rice, and so they're asking the schools to provide all the whole grains in a child's diet. And that's how the child is getting 50%.
Right.
I think that's put undue pressure on the school system. And what we've been telling USDA continually is that our kids are pushing back. It's not foods they're accustomed to. Meal counts across the country over the last 5 years have declined because kids are just pushing out of the meal program because they don't like the food. There's that part of nutrition, which is good nutrition is only good if the child consumes it.
Right, exactly. In our closing moments, Sandy, are we at a point with the food show where we're taking interested folks, or are we not quite there yet?
We will be pushing this out to families toward the end of this month.
Okay.
So parents should be looking for those Connect 5 calls, looking on Facebook, looking at our website, and getting that information later this month.
I think that's fascinating because on the day-to-day, other than the stray, hey, why don't you serve more tater tots? Other than that, it's not as if you seriously factor in. You don't have like a parent committee talking about nutrition and cafeteria offerings.
No, we don't. So we've even student sampling, while we've done some over the years, it's not something that's been a huge focus for us. So this is really a new desire, a new move to really get some community feedback and hopefully drive some of our parents and their families into our program.
Right. And on the other side of it also gives you all a chance to step up and say, for those who haven't gotten that message or don't get it, in the cafeteria or any other way, for you to say, listen, here's how we do what we do, here's why. And then there's some interplay, and folks get to understand what's happening.
Absolutely.
Behind the scenes. Final notes, Jeff?
No, we're always happy to be here. Always happy to talk about the program. We appreciate the offer. Thanks for having us.
One quick note: summer meals. Are we at the point we're getting those ready?
Absolutely. Summer meal program? We Mike and the team started talking about summer meals already this week. It's hard to think in the dead of winter we're talking summer, but for all intents and purposes, it is end of February, and summer meals start 2 or 3 days after the school year ends, which is second week of June. So we are 3 months and counting to summer meals.
So the meal
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 summer meals.
So the meal